You're listening to I Have Some Notes, a podcast supported by listeners like you. To contribute, visit patreon.com/I Have Some Notes.
What about this? A guy steals all the evidence of a massive conspiracy to cover up the existence of extraterrestrial life.
Awesome. U.S. government spooks make great villains.
Actually, it's a shadowy organization that operates beyond government oversight.
Even better, the Illuminati make great villains.
Well, no, they aren't an all-powerful globalist cabal. They're like a weapons and tech research apparatus.
Nice. Militants with high-tech weaponry make great villains.
They mostly just chase the protagonist around in SUVs and, ram his car from behind.
I have some notes.
Welcome, everyone, to I Have Some Notes, the movie podcast with cuts, keeps, punch-ups, and tweaks on mediocre movies. I'm Liam Creswick.
I'm Scott C. Bourgeois.
And I'm Greg Beaver.
And today we are discussing Disclosure Day.
New movie.
Hot off the press.
Yeah, we haven't done a fresh, right-in-theaters movie in a long time.
I think Brave New World was the last one.
Yeah. And we haven't done many at all. I think Brave New World and then The Mummy? Or is that the three that we've done hot off the presses? Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. So yeah, It was nice to see something brand new in the theaters, especially hanging out with you folks.
Yeah. A nice little treat for us to wrap up the season with.
Yeah, full disclosure. This is the end of season 11 of I Have Some Notes.
Yeah,
then we'll get to season 12 next year.
We usually take the summer off. Greg gets busy and, wants to spend time with his family or some nonsense. So, yeah.
Mostly I just want a break from the cadence of editing the podcast every 2 weeks. But this summer I'll be particularly busy. So, yeah, it'll be...
Yeah, you're renovating a kitchen, I believe.
Yeah, we're going to try to anyway. Hopefully that will happen.
Of course, Disclosure Day, a recent release, came out on June 12th, 2026, directed by the one and only Steven Spielberg, famous, of course, for Ready Player One, which you might have heard of on this podcast. Written by David Koepp of Jurassic Park fame and also Steven Spielberg. And based on this fucking boomer's 50-plus year obsession with aliens. Stars Emily Blunt as Margaret Fairchild, Josh O'Connor as Dr. Daniel Kellner, Colin Firth as Noah Scanlon, Eve Hewson as Jane Blankenship, Coleman Domingo as Hugo Wakefield, and Wyatt Russell as Jackson. This is at least the third movie with Wyatt Russell in it that we've done on this podcast.
Is it really? Well,
because he was in Everybody Wants Some. And
right.
he's the lesser Captain America. He's U.S.
agent.
Right.
Yeah. This movie is divisive because, it's overall being fairly well received, but the people who don't like it seem to really don't like it.
Yeah, the people I follow on Letterboxd, it is quite all over the place. Especially the things, not just divisive, did you like it or not, but also what worked and what didn't.
Yeah.
Seem to be really hit people differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was some evidence of that when we came out of the theaters because you guys really liked being dropped in media res, with just the plot already chugging along and getting underway. And I very much did not like that. So yeah, I think we'll have, some differing opinions on what exactly needs to be fixed.
How does this one stack up against Spielberg's other classic sci-fi films? I will ask the two of you because I am little. I haven't seen as many as maybe you think I would have or should have. So,
and many of his sci-fi ones, or just many Spielberg ones overall?
Sci-fi ones specifically.
Have you seen E.T.?
Why don't you tell me how you feel about the Disclosure or the other ones? No, I have seen War of the Worlds, and I've not seen Close Encounters, and I've not seen E.T.
Fair enough. This wasn't meant to come across as judgy. I was just curious to get a baseline of where you're coming in. War of the Worlds, good to know. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I actually like War of the Worlds quite a bit. The first act of War of the Worlds absolutely rules, in my opinion. E.T. I don't think I've seen since I was a kid, and I would be afraid to judge it because I don't remember enough about it. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I think, was sort of one of the movies that was kind of my entry into being more of a cinephile. This is way back when I was working at a video store, free movie rentals, and I was like, time to watch the classics. And yeah, I was hoovering up a bunch of those, and that's also when I watched Poltergeist as well. So yeah, I'm familiar with the Steven Spielberg classics, particularly the sci-fi ones, because that's the stuff that makes my brain shoot off in fireworks. But his post 90s stuff, I really kind of fell off the wagon with keeping up on Spielberg movies after that.
Yeah, in the turn of the century, we got AI, Minority Report, Catch Me If You Can, The Terminal, War of the Worlds, Munich, brings us right up to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah. We all know how that one went.
Yeah.
Well, and we can't place the blame for that squarely on Spielberg in this case.
Sure.
You know what? This movie kind of falls flat compared to a lot of his other movies, period, but a lot of his other sci-fi stuff as well. It's very competently filmed. It's very competently directed. It's wonderful. It's excellently acted, in my opinion. I think that the whole cast shows up to play. The problem is that it's like a first draft script, and it's kind of a hot mess, and it falls apart under any scrutiny. On pure vibes, the movie I think is pretty decent and very watchable, but it's an incoherent mess.
Interesting, because I don't think the plot, like the events as they unfold, are incoherent. I just thought they were tepid. I would never actually accuse someone of this, but when I was thinking back all the plot beats in my head of this one, I don't think by any stretch the movie was written by AI, but it felt like they got AI to do the skeleton. Cause it was very then this happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens. And there are little mysteries peppered in because he's a good screenwriter, and that's how you write a good movie. You pepper in little, things we're going to find out. What does that word mean? What does that phrase mean? Why is that character all shifty? But some of them never actually pay off, or it just kind of it felt like it was going through the motions of emotion we've never gone through before. And
therein lies the reason why it's incoherent, because you are absolutely correct in that it's this happens, then this happens, then this happens. It's just the problem is sometimes there's no explanation to why this happens and then this happens. And that's not good. Also, there are occasions where people make really questionable decisions, which leads to this happening, which is also not good. And there's also inconsistency in exactly what the alien technology can do and exactly what Margaret's powers in particular are capable of doing. She can do things in one scene that she never does again. It's never explained why Colin Firth's character can use the special alien tech that only Margaret and Daniel should be able to handle safely, and no other human seems to be able to. There's a lot of holes there that need to be plugged for the movie to make more sense. And that's unfortunate. Also, in the third act,
saying the same thing.
And in the third act, as we all agreed on this when we got out of the theater, the bad guys just give up. They just literally, Colin Firth just sits down and lets the thing he's spent his entire life trying to prevent from happening happen with no explanation why, and all of his and Liam said, and all of his goons really? Just angrily temper tantrum out of the room. It's very comical and nonsensical. And yeah, the movie needed 3 more drafts before it actually went to celluloid. And that's kind of makes it perfect for us in a way, actually.
Yeah, I love a movie with a lot of big ideas, and this one's got them in spades. And I think it's mean. It would be mean of me to say that they feel half baked. Like it's like it does feel like these ideas have been thought about and processed, but just that I don't know whether
lack
it's
a wider perspective.
Yeah, and they're just, what I keep coming back to is the characters themselves. Like there's a lot of implied depth, but not enough elucidation on the depth of those characters,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes there's just like little things that feel missing that just kind of annoy me. Like we never get a scene of Daniel Kellner's past. And it is, I would say, fairly crucial to the reveal of everything, and before we get to the end. But we do get all that with Emily Blunt, and I just like when they make a big deal of like, it's always just been the two of you, and then it's really just kind of about the one of them, and like that just felt weird to me. And
Daniel very much feels like a secondary character to Margaret's story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There's other little things that are just kind of, I don't know, like just on what I would expect from a director like Steven Spielberg. There's things that just kind of feel like this should connect better. For example, and I was listening to the Slash Filmcast when they pointed this out, that the beginning of this movie opens in a wrestling match, and it's a really great sequence. This first person point of view of a wrestler like clotheslining a guy, and the camera
stepping on his head.
Yeah, the camera's just swinging in all sorts of weird and interesting ways. It's a rockin' sequence, and yet at the end of it, I'm left with why are we opening the movie with this? Outside of the fact that like he's waiting to make a drop off at this wrestling match, like there doesn't seem to be sort of like any connectivity to any sort of central thesis of the movie. And like when you're opening a movie, like it's fun to do that. It's fun to open with something that is somewhat connected to what the movie is going to be. So that's weird, but also the other little things, like there's a scene, it's very funny, where they need to get rid of a phone so they can't be tracked. This is Margaret and Wyatt Russell's character, and they throw the phone out of the car, and then they have trouble running it over. Like they just keep missing it over and over again.
It is a good bit of levity.
Yeah, it's funny. But again, like I'm not sure what that tells us about the characters necessarily. Like it's just like, like in a smarter script, it feels like that would reveal something that would, even if it's subtle. And I don't feel like that does. It feels like it's only played for laughs. So just like little things like that, for a movie that I think is just full of weightier ideas. That's why it doesn't connect for me.
Yeah. I think a lack of connection is another good way to sort of frame. Like I said, we're all sort of saying the same thing. It's too linear. It's too incoherent. Doesn't connect. I think that's all kind of part and parcel of the same thing. It doesn't tie together all nicely. And then some of the things that are set up as mysteries, like we were saying, the beginning, like Scott and I loved that we start off, we don't know what this device is. We don't know who any of these characters are or why they're in conflict in a way that's like really fun and engaging. And they keep dropping a bunch of mysteries like that throughout, and some of them never get paid off. We should go to the trailer and plot summary here in a second, but the one that annoyed me the most, in terms of things that weren't paid off, there's a line where Hugo, Coleman Domingo's character Hugo, and Colin Firth's character Noah are talking about using the wand to dive on people. And then the phrase of like, I'm going to dive on them. Ooh, you got to dive on them. And it's to go into their body and take control of their body psychically. And I was like, and then at some point he's like, oh, I tried to dive on her, but she's an experiencer. And I'm like, oh, like this is still in the first half of the movie. I can't wait to find out why they call it dive on. I can't wait to find out what an experiencer is and how they know there's a difference between. We never find out. We never meet another person called an experiencer. We never see him fail to dive on someone. We don't know. Like, yeah.
He does fail to dive on Daniel.
Yes, so, but that like,
yeah, but that's
also
what
experience.
triggers.
I just mean
all
like we
of,
never get the extrapolation of I tried to dive on them, but they're an experiencer. Like that's such good sci-fi jargon, and it's kind of just dropped and forgotten, right?
Yeah.
But it is a pretty dense movie, plot and idea wise. So let's go to the trailer and the plot summary.
People have a right to know the truth. It belongs to 7 billion people.
What is it?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you. So I'm gonna show you.
What are you gonna do?
Full disclosure to the whole world. All at once.
Jane has been kidnapped. Dr. Daniel Kellner is taking in a wrestling match, waiting to exchange stolen video proof of aliens for his girlfriend. When the evil double-secret organization, and not a brand of window cleaner, Wardex arrives with its goons, Daniel pulls out a magic alien wand. The wand is so dangerous and unpredictable it forces Wardex CEO Nolan Scanlon to allow Daniel and Jane to escape. Meanwhile, in Kansas City, weather anchor Margaret Fairchild is hypnotized by an alien posing as a cardinal, the bird, not the priest. This unlocks psychic abilities in Margaret, who starts speaking alien instead of English on air. Millions of Kansas City residents are left unsure if it will rain or not. Now on Wardex's radar, Margaret flees the city unsure what is happening to her or why mysterious agents are now in pursuit. Daniel explains to Jane that aliens are real, he can understand their language, and that he's working with ex-Wardex employees blowing the whistle on the conspiracy. Nolan uses the magic wand to take over Jane's mind and body, forcing her to reveal their location and attempt to kill Daniel. They briefly escape, but Daniel is eventually caught, but not before giving Jane his wand, a magical alien device, whatever. Margaret rescues Daniel from Wardex using her empathic abilities to disarm all the corporation's goons. Exactly one car train chase later, Daniel and Margaret are picked up by the whistleblowers. They're taken to a building where Margaret's childhood home has been recreated brick for brick. It's here she learns of her and Daniel's abduction by aliens in an apparent long-ass plan to disclose the truth of their existence to the human race. The whistleblowers must now outwit Wardex long enough to bring about Disclosure Day.
So there's another one. Why does Hugo, Coleman Domingo's character, go to all the trouble to rebuild Margaret's home brick by brick? And I know he says it so that like it'll be easier to process this big revelation if she's in somewhere comfortable and familiar. But like, how does he know what their house looks like? How does he know that's the house she lived in on the day she was abducted? This actually might be in the movie and I'm just an idiot because I did smoke a big old fat Emily Blunt before the movie. How does Coleman Domingo's character even know that they were abducted as children? Was that covered?
I mean,
No.
I suppose there's the implication that he was told by the alien at the end, who he's been cahooting with for a
That's
while.
fair.
But it's certainly not made explicit by any stretch.
Yeah. And then again, where did he get the blueprints to her childhood home?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, again, from the alien, but that's real, like, a wizard did it, kind of, you know.
Sure. Yeah. The I can hand wave that away a little bit. But I mean, I think the bigger problem is that, I mean, it's kind of funny that they went to the trouble of building this thing brick for brick to sort of like calm her, but it doesn't do that at all. It freaks her out.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it would. It would freak you out. I'm just in a warehouse and there's my house. And like, why is it here?
It's a Nathan Fielder sketch at that point. Like, it's...
Does this calm you down? This is your childhood home in this warehouse. Yeah.
yeah, I really like Coleman Domingo as an actor. I liked his character. He's kind of got this like swaggery confidence of a whistleblower who knows he's probably got it on lock. But I would have liked to know more about how he got to this point. Like you were sort of saying that about Daniel, the character Daniel, but like I kind of picked up everything I needed to know about Daniel. The important part is he was touched by aliens. I wanted to know way more about Hugo, and they don't really give you anything. And I feel like that's less of a mysterious detail left to your imagination and more of a genuine missed opportunity.
And this isn't a fix that I had in mind, but it would have been very easy to say that his interactions with the living alien specimen resulted in him learning a lot of this information and deciding to change sides. And that could further be influencing Nolan, the CEO's decisions, thinking that Hugo's been being unduly influenced by the aliens, that he's under their control, not that he's come to this realization by himself. Right. Mm-hmm. And again, that adds more stakes, because then there comes the question of, is Hugo trustworthy? Right. Especially if Nolan tells this to someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good dialogue in this movie. There's a lot of interesting arguments and statements that are made by a number of characters, especially when it comes to Spielberg kind of chewing on his themes and the thesis in the movie. And there's also some dialogue that's really Netflixy.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, we have to tell you a thing that we're showing you right now because you probably are looking at a screen that isn't the movie. And that's just unfortunate.
Yeah, I think the best scene in the movie, dialogue-wise, is the conversation between Noah and Hugo. So the opposite ends of Ward X, the whistleblowers and the CEO of it, where they're just talking about their philosophical perspective on things. And I think that's where we get the best idea in the movie. The idea that empathy is so powerful that it can alter your perspective on the universe. Like the implication is like that is how the aliens got to where they are, like both as a species and like technological wise, just being able, just like radical empathy. And I really appreciated that. I mean, it's quite clear in an age where some factions are viewing empathy as a weakness.
Yeah.
It's a very important idea, and I think more films should be talking about it. So that's great.
I agree. That was probably one of my favorite philosophical ideas in the movie.
I feel like Spielberg is juxtaposing that in the film as well. This more optimistic view of humanity's potential, juxtaposed against this backdrop of World War III that he's got going on, which unfortunately really falls by the wayside throughout the movie.
I gotta disagree. I think that was a perfect amount of set dressing background detail. Like all of these events are happening as America and Russia are about to start World War III. And I thought there was just enough of that. It was one of my favorite parts.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Other than its implications for the very end, which I'll get to. But throughout the movie, I was like, I quite liked just a little peppering of the fact that all of our characters are chasing each other around. Everyone else is panicking, trying to buy toilet paper and oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I somewhat agree with Scott that I would have liked to have seen, people a bit more in peril with regards or wringing their hands more about what was coming. I think that would have added to the texture of the World War, because I feel like for the most part in the movie, people kind of walking around going about their business, especially in the first act. And I think adding more of that tension early on would contribute to what I think is essentially meant to be more of a ticking clock than anything.
But it doesn't really work as one because it's so in the background. Is my argument.
Yeah. I don't think you're wrong. I feel like we're spending maybe a little bit too much time in the house, the remade house, when we could be cutting back and forth between what is happening on the world stage, just to sort of contribute to that ticking clock, so that it does feel more of a heavy thing that's going to be coming down on us.
I think one of the reasons why it feels so in the background to me is because it doesn't seem to be in any way affecting any of the main characters.
The main character, precisely.
Right.
Like
yeah.
Margaret, Daniel, Noah, and even like I think I called him Nolan earlier, Noah Scanlon. None of them seem to care that World War III is about to happen. It's not even on any of their radar. They're hyper-focused on the aliens, which fine. But also, it would, especially at the beginning of the movie for Margaret, it would be more interesting if her and Wyatt Russell were seriously concerned about what the implications of this could be. It would be interesting if someone said to Colin Firth, like, why are we so focused on this? There's about to be a nuclear attack. Like, it would be interesting if it affected the plot more than it does. And it really just doesn't. And
not even the plot, just the characters. Like you said,
Well,
the
yeah.
main characters, or even the side characters, like all the people like powdering Margaret's nose, and like the TV producer hustling her onto the weather desk. Like, there should be little comments about, come on, we got to get this wrapped up because there's a lineup for toilet paper.
Well,
Like,
and I'll point at Jane, Eve Hewson's character. She should be more like, sure, Daniel's hyper focused on whistleblowing the aliens, but she's just some lady who's caught up in it, and she should legitimately be like, why are you so focused on this when the world's about to end? And then you could make an argument, have one of the smart characters involved in the alien plot make the succinct argument that this could potentially stop that. This could be the big thing that brings humanity together finally. Like, and it feels like a missed opportunity there.
yeah, that's fair. The question in the room, it's something, the biggest question, I think, and it's something I've seen discussed in a lot of the reviews and discussion of this film online. So I want to ask how it landed for you. Do you buy the overall hopeful, optimistic message at the end that if suddenly everyone at the same time were to find out that the Roswell aliens were real and some clandestine organization has been profiting off them for the last 70 years, would that bring humanity together to stymie World War III and create a hopeful new world order of global unison?
Well, I think it might be step one in something like that. I don't know if it would just instantly happen. I don't know. I'm willing to accept an optimistic view of humanity. I think that we're in a deeply cynical age right now, and it's nice to have a refreshing view, which is like, no, you know what? We're a mature, as a species, we're a mature people, and we can come together when something big happens or when there's like serious adversity. That there are things that can unite us, and I'm okay with that. I don't think that this movie necessarily like sticks the landing, but I can acknowledge that the movie is flawed and still agree that the message is good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I think about this in the same way that I think about criticisms of like Star Trek's future, that there's no money and people just work to improve themselves, and how would a society without money even work, and this, that, and the other thing, and to me, like, none of that is really all that important. The important part of it is that we got there, and that it is something for us to inspire to. And even for this movie, and while do I buy that if we put a bunch of video on a newscast of aliens and people will be like, yep, that's aliens, we're not alone now. I mean, I think there would be a lot of people who'd be ready to believe it, but I also think a lot of people would be ready to be pretty skeptical about it, and that is a perfectly valid response. So yes, like Scott says, step one. But do I think it's possible, or like, I don't even know if that's the right question. It's like the point of the movie is just like there is hope that something can bring us together, and whether that's aliens or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's just something to aspire to, and that's the most important part for me.
That's fair. I'm pretty cynical, and I have very little faith in humanity. And so with a big asterisk, and there's one thing that would have I'm going to hit you with a fix now. One thing that would have sold me on that had it been included, but as it's presented in the last 15 minutes, first of all, to the credit of the actress playing the newscaster who is delivering all this news, first time, she nails it. She really sells the heart of we're seeing this for the first time. That appears to be an alien. It appears we're not alone in the universe. She nails it. So no notes for her. I think we live in too cynical of a time and misinformation of a time that, there'd be people we can't get people to believe in the moon landing and vaccines. Immediately people are going to question this. And even if everyone did take it at face value, it also begs questions like, oh, we were on the brink of World War III and now we're dropping the alien news. This is all part of some kind of deep state plan to yada, yada. It's AI. And that's the very, the cynical part of me is this would never happen. This wouldn't move the needle at all. But I would buy it in the movie. I would be willing to jump on board with the movie's philosophy of this if the aliens' message of empathy as the most powerful tool for societal advancement, part and parcel with math. If somehow part of the message that went out to everyone in the world was you have to empathize, you have to love, you have to see it from all perspectives. It's the only way progress happens. If that message was part of the newscast, part of the footage in some organic way, then I would have bought it. But just being here's some grainy footage of, aliens from Roswell, I was no, that's not going to move the needle at all. But also it misses a chance to reinforce the theme of the power of empathy. If the aliens or Margaret or Daniel or Noah or anyone, the newscaster, somehow impart the aliens' wisdom onto everyone at the same time we're finding out they are real.
In fairness, the last line of the movie is just listen, which is I think the implication being that all the things that you just talked about would happen after that. But, it sort of leaves you at that sort of moment where, are we really going to, follow what this person is? Are we going to listen? It does feel like a little bit of an open question to me, and I do feel like that's purposeful. So just trying to be fair to what the movie presented, because we do not see at any point, we certainly see everyone stop and watch what's going on. But we don't necessarily see the end of the war or anything like that, right?
I guess if we got a little more than listen, then it would have positioned this movie to be Bizarro, The Day the Earth Stood Still. It's the whole point of The Day the Earth Stood Still is aliens are here and they're smarten up or else, and they figure it out or we'll fucking spank you. And then they take off. Whereas this is figure it out and here are the tools to do it.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to see the tool get handed off beyond saying listen.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the idea is, and you sort of touched on this, is that it is about this radical empathy as well as the knowledge. They both, Daniel Kilner and Margaret Fairchild sort of represent the two things that are necessary in order for us to get to the next stage of where humanity is supposed to go. Those two, so we've just talked about quite a bit through the first half of this episode. Is just the pieces seem like they're all kind of there, but they're just not coming
They're not fit together
all the way together. And, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually don't really know the best way to make those things fit. So I'm very much looking forward to the second half, because I think that is going to, bring some very interesting discussion and perhaps a lot of debate.
Well, let's get right into it then. Let's see if we can put all these pieces together into something more coherent.
Sunset Cove, British Columbia is a sleepy tourist town in a quiet part of the multiverse. You wouldn't expect it to be home of one of the most chaotic slug blaster teams, Sunset Sideshow.
Slug blasting is spectacle.
What the fuck are you looking at? It's calamity time!
Guess what? She's a hugger.
We're here to win.
Will Sunset Sideshow be able to do well in this season of the Extreme Blaster Federation? Tune in to SBTV at these times, and it shows you all of these different times of different dimensions. And
Quantum Kickflip, a Slug Blaster actual play podcast. Listen to new episodes every other Wednesday.
Welcome back to I Have Some Notes. It's Disclosure Day.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Who wants to start fixes?
I have a radical fix that I facetiously suggested on our way out of the theater, but actually the more I've ruminated on it, the more I'm like, this could have been pretty rad. I think this should have been a stealth sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I think that you don't market it in any way that it is the sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You don't have like Richard Dreyfuss in any of the marketing. You don't have any hint of it in the trailer or anything. And the movie structurally, we need to tighten it up, but it kind of plays out more or less the same for like the first two acts. But then the big reveal is that what they're disclosing is that we were visited by aliens back in the 80s or whenever. And it was the Close Encounters of the Third Kind situation. And that was the incident that Wardex is now keeping like on the DL and has been covering up and has been exploiting for many years and are trying to keep the public from finding out about. I think that you had a good setup to hint at it when little baby Margaret is singing her song to herself to calm herself down rather than some random generic Disney thing. It should have been the tune from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Do, 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 do. And then at you put out all the footage and it includes the footage from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And then instead of an alien being wheeled out at the end, it's old Richard Dreyfuss. And he's like, I was the guy, I was there. And I'm going to tell you all about it and how it can make the world a better place. Yeah. I think that would have been rad. You could have still had all the Escape to Witch Mountain vibes that the movie has. And then you just have the payoff that it actually ties into the earlier Alien movie. You could even make it a trilogy by including disclosure about E.T. having been a thing. And then all three, then you've got
Indiana Jones finding that crystal skull.
No, I'm actually being serious here, because that then forms a trilogy of Spielberg's like Alien trilogy, right?
Yeah.
You've got E.T. as the initial incident, and then that leads into them trying to make contact with an alien race, which is Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but then they cover it up because they're worried that humanity is not mature enough to learn about it, and now is the time for humanity to find out. And that's Disclosure Day, right? Would have been a big brain idea. I get not wanting to have sequels to those two classic movies. I completely understand. And this is a harebrained idea, but I think that would have been an exciting surprise in the third act to have that be the twist, is that, oh, Close Encounters of the Third Kind was a thing and it happened. I think that would have excited me more than what we got. And you could have still played with the same themes and you could have still kind of told the same story. I get it. This is a really dumb suggestion for fixes, because it really does fundamentally change the movie, but I wanted to put it out there at the very least.
No, it's a good place to start.
I don't mind that as like, hey, like a little nostalgia bump. And it kind of like, it's like you say, it sort of fits into the movie anyway. It could be fun. But there's probably, at least to me, unless you've got something that you've worked out, I don't see like how that necessarily fixes some of the actual problems of the movie.
It really fundamentally doesn't. As I said, there's still a lot of structural issues that need to be dealt with.
Like the one thing that I really wanted, and I talked to you guys when we got out of the theater about this, is not starting it necessarily. I mean, it can start as a cold open and a mystery. I don't mind that. But what I really wanted was a little bit more connection to Josh O'Connell's character and because I do feel like it's important that we kind of see what his journey was from a child to go along with what was happening with Margaret. And I would have loved to have seen the opening of this movie be something like a similar scene to what Margaret went through, where she was in her bed and then animals come in and you get that moment of Daniel as a child staring into the eyes of like a cardinal in the same way that Margaret does later. And then we can get sort of like a transition, and he's staring at, he's at a St. Louis Cardinals game or whatever, and he's just sort of transfixed by the Cardinals logo or whatever that. So you can kind of get him into the same situation, but he's got to sort of shake himself out of it and then go make the exchange for Jane. And that simple little connection, because later on in the movie, he asks Margaret outright, like, when she talks about being transfixed by an animal, he asks her, was it a cardinal? So it's like the movie makes a point of that being important, but it does not come back up again. Yep. That is the last we ever hear about that. I guess the cardinal reappears, but it's not important for them as a connection. And that's what's implied, is that the cardinal is a connection for them, but it doesn't really end up being so, right? So I think doing something that simple helps put you in the mindset that Josh O'Connell's character has had something special happen to him. It's not just that he's like a smart guy. There's something else going on, And I think that helps. I think that helps because they constantly they remind you several times that it's always been the two of them, right? They say that a lot. And if you want those two characters to be special like that, then I think, more setup reminders is helpful. And I think that helps build the audience connection to it.
Yeah. And you don't have to change much because everything that happens at the wrestling match can happen at a Cardinals game. So, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. To touch on it's always been the two of you thing. That's part of what pissed me off about the line, you can't dive on an experiencer, where it's like, who are experiencers? And if it's always been the two of them and you just met them for the first time, then what are you talking about?
How do you know that you can't dive on an experiencer?
Yeah.
What is an experiencer?
It implies there are other experiencers. So either it's in conflict with the phrase, it's always been you two, or there's other people.
Yeah. Like,
but just in general.
If they had just told us like something simple, like an experiencer who is someone who's like met and talked to an alien.
Yeah. If you've been touched by the Vorlons, you can't be dove on. Yeah.
Yeah. And for them, like, that's great. For them, they're such a closed corporation that like, hey, we know all the people who've talked to an alien before. And like nobody else should do this. I shouldn't be able to dive. I should be able to dive into anybody else on the planet. And yet I can't dive into this guy. Why not? At least that would, help us understand what's going and give you an idea of like, oh, this is the experiencer is a much deeper thing. There are other people who've had this experience with an alien, and that's why that happens.
I kind of like that. And I like the idea that means that Hugo was hiding Daniel in Wardex under their nose the whole time. And that if Noah legitimately was completely unaware that Daniel was an experiencer, he's been working there for like a decade, and Hugo's just been like keeping it mum and keeping it out of the records that Daniel is one of those rare experiencers that have been known. It furthers that little kind of sense of betrayal for Noah. that Hugo's been keeping this from him. Yeah.
Like if the aliens have it just in being communion with them in some way, like because they seem to have empathic powers, right? So even if you think that they're a threat, like Noah does, and he goes and meets that alien, and he has some manner of experience with them, that also gives you the excuse of why he can use the wand.
Yeah. Because he's an experience.
The MacGuffin. Because he's had that experience, and at least on some level, conscious or not, his empathy has been activated in a way that lets him interact with this radical empathetic technology that the aliens have. Right?
Which he's misusing, and by the way, Hugo should call him on during the course of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
In general, my big fix is I want more Hugo. I want to know, I don't necessarily need more of his plot history that got us here, though that would be nice. Mm-hmm. I just wanted more of his philosophy, and we only get that little bit. Scott's looking at me like I had a thought, and I want you to finish your thought, but then it's just, I wanted more of what Hugo did and knew, and why he did and knew those things that got us to this point, because he's quite mysterious. And Greg kind of touched on it at the beginning. It's also a bit of a missed opportunity to make Hugo a bit more mysterious, possibly dangerous. You trust him implicitly from the get-go. As soon as we meet that character, you're like, that's a good guy. He's on the right side of history. And I think there's an opportunity to have you like side-eye him for a moment, and maybe want to give Noah a little bit more of a Scandian a little bit more of a shake. And if they're this dueling philosophy of humanity can't handle it, actually, yes, humanity can, then a moment where we actually do relate to Noah would be helpful.
Well, and that could be part of Noah's pitch to Jane as well. Like, he's working for a guy who's being manipulated by these creatures.
Yeah.
It dawns on me when you started talking about Noah, I immediately went back to what Greg was just talking about. And the implication that anybody who's had an experience with the aliens, who's dealt with them one-on-one, can't be dove on because they've been affected by the empathy. And that's why Noah Scanlon can use the technology. Yep. Hugo's been dealing with one of them for years. Why can he be dove on? It's not consistent. Noah shouldn't be able to dive on him if he's been talking to an alien.
Does he?
Well, it's certainly implied that's because he was the guy who was their biological expert. He's been dealing with that alien.
Right.
He helped that alien escape. It outright says that in the movie.
Yeah.
And that's why he's there waiting at the loading dock for him with a smug look on his face at the end, because he knows they're bringing the alien for an exclusive interview. So he's been in cahoots with the aliens. He's been cahooting with them, like right up to his eyeballs. You'd think that would count as an experience.
So to that end, then, one of my structural fixes, like it's a true like script, take this plot detail and put it 30 pages later. When Daniel reveals all of the evidence he has to his girlfriend, Jane, he like end of the first act, he lays it all out, right? And that's good. I think if they kept us trying to guess what this secret he's got in his bag is, I think it would have got exhausting. So I think they reveal to the audience and to the character who doesn't know anything at the right time, except they should have withheld one detail, and it would have helped keep Hugo mysterious and possibly dangerous. They also show you immediately that the second we meet aliens, we torture them and we're dicks to them and we're exploiting them, and they're screaming and crying like, puppies or like the alien is clearly under duress and being exploited and tortured. And I think if somehow that detail could come later to be the final nail in the coffin, where we're like, yep, Noah Scannion's a bad guy, Hugo's a good guy, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, they've been exploiting these aliens. It kind of blew its load a little too soon. Like, it's the one little piece of mystery of like, aliens exist, interesting. Aliens exist, and we have been torturing them for personal gain for the last 70 years. even more interesting, put it later.
Yeah, I agree. It does make it more interesting if it feels like Daniel and then Margaret, when she's brought in, are kind of caught between two people and you don't really know which one's right. If there's sufficient evidence at first that yes, Wardex is trying to keep this undercover, but Scanlan has some pretty good arguments why that might be necessary. Hugo seems to be on the up and up, but also he could be under the influence of the aliens. In our version, at the very least, that's made a little more clear up front. So can he be trusted? And then and Daniel seems to be like, yes, no, Hugo's the right choice. Jane's not so sure. Margaret's not so sure. And then to win certainly Margaret over when they're at the childhood home, Daniel's like, let me show you something. And he shows her the video of the alien being tortured.
That's where you put it. Hell
and
yeah.
it's and he's like, this is why we're on the right side. This is why we're with Hugo, because this is what Wardex is doing. And they need to be stopped.
Yeah, I like that.
Another structural thing, we touched on it at the beginning as like a problem, but I have a fix for it. The fact that Noah just kind of gives up, it's quite funny. It's a very silly scene where Margaret is like standing in front of the news, standing at the news desk, broadcasting to the world this information. Noah's got his Wardex goons behind him. And on one hand, I appreciate that Spielberg didn't have it be a lot of gunplay. Like, there's a million versions of this movie where everyone has guns pointed at everyone else saying, do it or else. Or don't do it or else. And so I like that, like, these Wardex goons, like, turn the power off and, like, they got walkie-talkies, not guns, Fine. But there's still this final confrontation with the villain. And he just slumps in a chair defeated and his goons storm off. He should have some kind of come to Jesus moment. He should have some kind of revelation. And as I said that sentence, I know it's just a turn of phrase, come to Jesus moment. It solves two problems. Sorry, this is all coming to me in the moment. He's obviously interacted with these aliens, and yet he has not learned that lesson of empathy from them. And obviously he should finally learn alien empathy is what makes him give up. Fine. Yeah. That was what I was going to say. Great. But you know who teaches him that empathy? Is Jane, who just got off the phone with the nun lady who convinced her that, like, God can exist and aliens can exist. And then Jane can be the one to help Noah Scanlan have his literal come to Jesus moment. And it even fixes the problem that when Jane entered, like the blocking of Jane entering the news studio, she just sort of pushes past the guards and hands over the MacGuffin and nobody stops her. So
I like that a lot, especially because it bookends the earlier interactions with the two of them, where Scanlan is trying to convince her of his worldview and then forcibly manipulates her to do what he wants. And then for her to come back and earnestly convince him to stand down, and he does it of his own free will. That bookends it perfectly. That's actually really slick. I like that a lot.
Pretty happy with that. And like I said, it also fixes the problem of Jane just sort of waltzing into the newscast and being like, no one tries to stop her. Like, there's no friction. Yeah.
Yeah.
She can hand him the wand and then he hands the wand to Fairchild. Like,
yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's really clean and really nice. I want there to be more consistency in what Margaret can do. Because in the middle of the movie, she can make herself look like your loved ones, and it's a power that never comes back up. And that doesn't track to me. I think she should just have the, like, mind scan ability and the ability to say the right thing to, like, make your defenses go down. And I think that should just be consistent through the movie. I don't think she needs to appear as Scanlan's dead wife or someone's, like, dead dad or something. Yeah. I think that actually pulled me out of the movie because I thought that was really ridiculous.
I think it also makes the aliens less trustworthy because if they're manipulating people in that way, then it's not very
So I think you were both right.
Altruistic.
Yeah.
I think you're both right. I'm not arguing against it, but she didn't make herself look like that. It's like some kind of mystique shapeshifter. It's just she says the right thing so right that you might as well be talking to your dead dad. Like,
I didn't read it like that. Because Scanlon literally says, like, I saw my wife. And so, like, I got it as some sort of, like, mental projection. She wasn't shaped.
But I don't think she was doing it deliberately. I don't think she was like, I'm going to look like his wife.
I don't think she's doing anything deliberately through most of the movie. That's made pretty clear. She has no control over her ability. I think you can just pull that part right out, and you don't have to show that. And it just came across as silly, and I think that it kind of detracted from the scene.
Fair.
And I think that you just get rid of it.
Yeah, because I actually think that power was working
really cool
earlier in the movie without the transformation of her visually.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. I don't think it was necessary to take it to that next level. I think it was working well as a device, and I think the reactions from the actors just off of like what she was saying to them and all that kind of stuff, that stuff hit better than actually seeing the loved ones themselves.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah, that was a very cool power. That scene with the cop at the beginning, when she's like, "Oh, you're just having a bad day. Buy your wife those flowers she likes. It'll make everything better. You're okay."
I did legitimately like seeing the cop back in the final act when they get back to the radio station, and he's clearly been waiting there to talk to her because it's only been like 2 days. So like, there's no reason why he might not have shown up expecting her to be there. And for them to have a little moment where he was like, "You were right." And she was like, "I know." But it was a nice little touching little bookend to that earlier interaction. I actually did kind of like that. Nice little callback.
Yep.
And in fact, if anything, I wish the cop had helped somehow in the third act in dealing with the bad guys rather than the bad guys just giving up. Like all the people that she's been helping through the movie showing up in this final act to help get her on the air would have been an interesting payoff. But of course, that doesn't really materialize.
Yeah. I think the opportunity to do that is pretty easy because the one guy I don't buy just stomping off at the end is Nolan's right-hand man.
Who literally tries to kill him.
He is a true believer. Like, you're right. He's the guy who's trying to push them into the train. Like, he's bought all the way in. I don't buy that he would just walk away.
So having the cop stop him. Yeah,
having the cop stop him or something like that. Yeah, I think that would sort of complete that circle nicely.
And the only one who makes it through the blockade of people who have been empathized with the help of the cop and stuff is Noah, who then has that moment with Jane, right?
With Jane, yeah. And it pays off the earlier suggestion that Margaret's setting stuff in motion. Like she mentions she's in the flow. It's like she's being led where she needs to go. She's talking to the people she needs to talk to. And then for many of those people to show back up in the final act at the station to help, it was her setting everything in motion unknowingly, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that works really well for how she was presenting because, she seemed to have this sort of knowledge of people, not just in her general vicinity, but she could tell where Daniel was and things like that. And it seemed like she had such a vast collection of knowledge of the people around her that she could sort of like intuit how things were going to go and how, towards the end of the movie, she could have set herself up for success.
I want Daniel's power to be cooler to match Margaret's power. And I think there's a way to make that work. Margaret has this inherent sense about all the people around her. Daniel's tuned into math. He should just have an innate sense about how the world is going to interact with stuff, about the physics of everything. Like when they're trying to get out of the car and onto the train, he should just know it's going to work. If we jump right now, it will work because he's got the math in his brain. He knows he could be successfully like avoiding the bullets the guy's shooting at them because he can figure out the trajectory instantly. I think that he should be doing to the physical world what she's doing to the people around her.
The emotional world.
Yeah. I think that would help to solve one of the scenes that gave me, like, I had a bad laugh reaction to, and it's when he's coming back to the farm and he's hiding from all the agents, and he's just behind, like, a very raw and
wooden fence.
thin bush and a wood fence. Like, it's not cover. And they're just like walking around. Like, they could see this guy through their side vision. Like, I understand that, like, in movies, you know, sometimes you set up, it's kind of like movie cover. Like, you know, you can kind of tell that, like, yeah, that wouldn't work like that. But they do it because they want the shot of you being able to see the hero as well as the danger at the same time.
Yeah.
So I kind of understand that, but this sort of like went beyond that. So if he's mathing so hard that he's able to sort of like, you know, calculate, you know, when to move, when not to, I think that makes that scene, this probably adds like an interesting little wrinkle to it, and some, you know, a fun way of him just sort of being like, I that guy should have saw me, or like, how am I able to get through this? He can just sort of be shocked that he's getting
how do I know that I need to go and get in the car right now?
Yeah.
And it's just because all the math is working in his brain, and he just knows that guy's going to move that way, that guy's going to move that way. If I go right now, I can make it to the car and no one's going to notice. And maybe that's kind of subtly implied what's going on, but I think it needs to be a little more explicit.
Yeah. I mean, during the chase, if they can have like him sort of like weaving in and out, like dodging things and stuff like that, you can have Jane just be like, how are you doing this? And he can be like, I don't know, man. You know, like,
kind of like, part of me was like, that's kind of corny and cheesy, but it's literally the premise of the movie Premium Rush. And that's just about a bike messenger. So yeah, actually I'm for it.
Yeah. And I mean, it elevates his alien ability to the level of Margaret's alien ability. Because as soon as Margaret gets on the scene and they pair up, Daniel kind of fades into the background because he doesn't have a flashy, cool ability. And it really becomes Margaret's story from that point on. And I just want a way to kind of elevate Daniel a little bit.
But he does load the hell out of those videos.
So many USB keys, yeah.
One after another. Boom, boom, boom.
And only a math whiz could have done it that fast.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, I think there's only one more detail, and we discussed this after the movie, that I think needs fixing, or at least addressing. Otherwise, I think we've done a pretty good job here of tightening this thing up, truly tying it together. We were talking about how, like, it's a bit incoherent. The pieces still need to click together. And I think we really have found a way to put a bow on it. But if it is just the two of them, it's always been just the two of them, Adam and Eve style, it would have been nice if one of those two characters, or both of those characters, were not white. Because two beautiful white children as the saviors of humanity is just played out and cringy.
With their black mentor figure.
Yeah, with their wise black mentor figure.
Yeah, which is in itself kind of an unfortunate trope. It would have been real easy for Daniel or Margaret to have been like Latino or black, or just to change it up a little bit. Yeah.
So I don't want to put you guys on the spot, but I'll give you a second to think about it. I knew I was going to say this, so I was trying to come up with alternate, like, who would I cast instead? Who do I think would be a good name?
Okay.
And so I think for Daniel, it should either be Stephen Yeun or either Dev Patel or Riz Ahmed.
All three of them, great suggestions.
What about Lakeith Stanfield?
I love Lakeith Stanfield. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I don't see him playing that kind of character. Even though, like, Lakeith Stanfield's like one of my favorite actors, I don't see him playing. Well, I guess in Judas and the Black Messiah, he's a bit of a like clandestine, smooth talker. You know, Lakeith Stanfield. Yep.
And to be clear, this is not a knock on Josh O'Connor, who
he's great,
very well in the movie.
Excellent.
But maybe it would have been a more interesting choice to have a non-white actor play that character. Yeah.
And then Keke Palmer for instead of Emily Blunt. Those are my pitches.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, this is definitely a script that needed a couple more passes on it. I jokingly called it a first draft earlier on. It does feel like an early draft. The screws are all obviously sticking out, and we were able to tighten a lot of them just by sitting here for an hour and chewing on some of it. So, like, yeah, it just needed a little more finessing before it went up on its feet. And I think that you could have had a much, much more improved movie.
Yeah. I actually, what's funny is that we talked about making there's only been two more coherent. And I actually hated that entirely. Like, I didn't want to pull it out, and I didn't want to suggest pulling it out, because I think it's fairly integral to the movie, but I just did not like the Adam and Eve thing at all.
Destiny stuff is kind of cringe.
Yeah. And when I was thinking about it, I think that part of this is a somewhat a limitation of blockbuster style filmmaking. Like, a lot of these types of things, like they the savior of humanity is this one person, or the savior of humanity are these two people, or whatever. And it's done that way because it's simple, and in an action rompy type movie, it lets people focus on a couple characters and get what they need from them, or whatever. But this movie probably very easily could have been a much more of a meditation type movie. Mm-hmm. Something that doesn't rely on, a couple characters, but rather a large cast of characters all coming together. It could have been more of like a journalism epic than an action romp or whatever. So, I just feel like because they've put it in the summer, there's a need to have all these action set pieces rather than really ruminate on the ideas that they were interested in talking about.
Weirdly, that's much more Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Mm-hmm. Which, admittedly, we're mostly focused on Richard Dreyfuss's character in that movie, but there are multiple experiencers who are all being drawn to the location of the visitation. We're just kind of following his journey. So
he's not like a savior character, I don't think, right? So.
So I kind of agree with you, but at the same time, Spielberg's already done that. And this is not, unfortunately, as I suggested off the top, a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But if it was, we should definitely do that.
Yeah.
That's, I think great job. Pat ourselves on the back and pat all our listeners on the back. Thank you for listening and thank you for commenting. For those of you who contribute when we solicit these comments on our Discord and on our social media. Obviously, this is a new release movie. We saw this the Sunday after it opened and are recording it shortly thereafter. So we know not everyone got off to the theaters to see this right away. So instead, we thought to ask your feelings on Steven Spielberg as a director.
Yeah, Sean McKnight said, should have made that sequel to 2011's Tintin instead. I haven't seen Disclosure Day, but that's my standard response to basically every Spielberg movie since 2011, except for Lincoln. Tintin, great movie. I will just say right now, if you've been sleeping on Tintin, treat yourself. It is legitimately great. And I would love to see a sequel to Tintin. I'd absolutely love to see them revisit that material. Because they did such a great job the first time. It was great to see in theaters. I've watched it since, and it's still a romp. Highly recommended.
I watched Catch Me If You Can recently, and it's great. I guess that's older. That's 2002, but heard good things about West Side Story. Still been meaning to watch that one, and Fabelmans, obviously.
Yeah. Spielberg's a good
And yes, director. I realize I did admit that I've never seen E.T., but I have seen Premium Rush.
Yeah, Spielberg's a good director. Like, he has way more hits than misses, and even his misses are pretty watchable. Even this is pretty watchable, and I think it's one of his weaker outings.
I had a fine time at this. I was disappointed. Yeah, there's lots going on. It may not be the best Spielberg movie I've seen, but yeah, I was not sorry I watched it.
Yeah,
it was a good time.
And just a diversity of stuff too. Like, if you look at his full list, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Color Purple, Jurassic Park, The Terminal. Like, what a four deeply different movies. So yeah, keep up the good work, Steven, and keep up the good work, Jeff Braun. Comments. His 2020s is his best decade since the 90s. 3 bangers back to back to back. In case save you the Google. West Side Story was 2021, The Fabelmans 2022, and then Disclosure Day 26.
Well, I mean, agree to disagree, Jeff. He had he knocked 2 of them out of the park and then struck out on the 3rd. But Tack says, I've seen quite a few Spielberg movies, but not as many as I should. I've never done a deep dive on him as a director because, well, frankly, he's the director. It's like putting your hand in water to judge its wetness. But time for me to stop making excuses. If I had to describe his movies in one word, it would be adventure. Not that every movie is in the adventure genre, but every movie feels like an adventure. Very succinctly put, Tack. I agree with you. Mm-hmm. I even agree with you with that statement about he's the water of directors. It sounds really damning, but it's because he's the baseline standard, and he's so good at it that he just disappears behind the camera. There was another creator, and I put myself on the spot, and the channel's not coming to me, who I was recently watching, who really said, like, in a time of auteur directors that we live in right now, where you watch a Christopher Nolan movie, a Tim Burton movie, Michael Bay movie, you can tell instantly. But with Steven Spielberg, the movie is front and center, and Steven has such a deft hand that he just is in the background and you don't see him at work. But he makes a great movie. And that's a skill. Like, that is an incredible skill. And that
he's
is
got
why
flourishes.
Yeah, well,
he does have personal touches, but
even
right.
so, it's much less. Yeah, it's much less heavy-handed than a lot of other directors, and that is why he is kind of the gold standard, and why you kind of judge other directors based on him.
He really likes those rear view mirror shots. I tell you.
Oh, for sure.
There's a real good one in this one too.
Well, I mean, The Duel was one of his first films, and that's just a little. I like to think that's just a little homage to The Duel. Which, by the way, also a great movie if you've never seen it. It was made for TV, but it's fantastic.
Bogoload comments, I've blown hot and cold on Spielberg over the years, but as I've come back to his movies over time, there's almost always a time frame I've really liked each specific work. And I think a huge amount of what makes his stuff work is that he's fundamentally sincere and making movies that are sincere in treating his characters as people and worthy of consideration and caring about them.
Yeah, I would agree that he's a sincere filmmaker. I think that's a fair take. And he's an optimistic filmmaker. We kind of discussed on this earlier. His movies generally aren't bummers. There are some. There are some that are bummers.
For the ones that are real bad, real bummers.
But even the ones that are real bummers usually have like a nice message at the end, right? Like there's a journey that's really a slog, but then it takes you somewhere nice at the end. It has a more optimistic ending. Like, I was talking to someone, I think I was talking to you, Greg, on our way to go see the movie, where I mentioned, like, I've seen AI and I enjoyed AI, and I'm never going to watch AI again because it is a super bummer. But even that movie does have kind of a bittersweet optimistic ending. And I feel like that's part of that Spielberg magic, right? Where he's going to take you on a journey, and he might go to some dark places, but if you hold his hand, he'll take you somewhere nice at the end.
I watched a bunch of interviews with him just prepping for the show, and he does seem like it's strange to see a man who's that much of a film icon and still come across as humble. Obviously, I don't know the man. I don't know if he's like super humble or whatever. Maybe behind the camera, he's like a monster. I don't know. But he seems like, I don't hear bad stories about him. And he seems pretty genuine with interviewers, and he's interested in them as much as they are interested in him. And I think that's probably a very good skill to have as a director. It's empathetic, right? Just like the theme of this movie.
Being interested in people is probably a really good skill as a director.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think
and a writer for that matter,
probably why he works with Tom Hanks so often, because Tom Hanks is the Spielberg of actors, where he's just like, that's the gold standard you're checking against. And he just seems like a genuinely nice guy who,
Yeah. I wanted to touch on one other fact about Steven Spielberg
Sure.
that I don't think that I really knew before watching all these interviews was that he is a alien true believer.
Yeah.
Like he talks about in the interviews about the recent UAP stuff that was happening in Congress, like the hearings about these things, the sort of revelations that came about some of these phenomenon. And I had this question in my mind about, like, because he talks about being a true believer, but like I sort of wonder, like, is he though? Like, because he made another fiction movie about aliens, and I just kind of wondered, like, if you were really like, if you're so sure about aliens, would you have not made a doc instead? You know, so I found that part of his personality really fascinating, and the decision to make another fiction film rather than exploring what's factually true about aliens is sort of interesting to me. I don't know that he's ever made a doc. But yeah, I mean,
well, also, I mean, if you're a true believer, like, there's different variations of what it means to kind of be a true believer. Like, you can be like, they came to Roswell in the 40s, full stop. Or you could be like, I forget what the scientific name for the, like, likelihood that there is, it's just like mathematically likely that there is life somewhere else at some point in the history of the universe somewhere. And the scale is between those two, right? And I think he might be able to, I guess my based on what you said, my gut instinct would be, by doing it in fiction and exploring it through fiction and movies, he can have the conversations he wants to have. Because if you start putting it down in documentary facts, that gets put up to scrutiny.
Yeah.
And then you're
it also gets tied explicitly to your name too. Like if it's harder to divorce yourself from a factual documentary that you put together.
He doesn't want to be the crazy hair aliens guy.
Well, I mean, that's kind of my point though. Is like, if he really did believe in his heart of hearts that aliens existed, would he have a problem in doing that? Would he have decided to make another fiction movie? And that's just me trying to, like, jump into his head a little bit and just, you know, figure out where his truth really lies, you know? Yeah.
I guess in these interviews you saw, is he a true believer, like, well, Roswell or, you know, whatever, Face on Mars?
He says pretty explicitly that he's very confident about aliens having visited us on this planet.
Okay.
So, you know, maybe I'm not characterizing him fairly by saying true believer. Maybe that's not the best way of characterizing it, but he does talk about it quite a bit about really, you know, believing in it. He knows all the people that were interviewed during these hearings. He's got good knowledge on that. So, like, clearly was very, very interested in it, and it sold him enough to go back to the alien well and make another alien movie. Because he does cite that very specifically as his inspiration for Disclosure Day.
Valid. Well, it might be Disclosure Day, but it's also the day of our last episode of the season. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will be taking a little break. We'll be back in September, but as always, you can still do all those things that keep in touch with us. Scott, how can they?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to not be making any new episodes over the summer, but we'll still be around on Blue Sky. We're at ihavesomenotes.bluesky.social. We're at ihavesomenotes.pod on Instagram. We're over on the Facebook at ihavesomenotes. But if you really want to interact with us, with some great conversation popping off all over the place all the time, especially when we hear any sort of movie news, we like to get your takes on it. Go check out our Discord server. You can find a link to join that right now on the profiles of any of our social media accounts or over at ihavesomenotes.com. And of course, as always, you can give us a little rating and review on your podcatcher of choice, because that helps us out ever so slightly.
Head over to patreon.com/ihavesomenotes to become an armchair screenwriter. Just a way for you to say thank you and help us run the operation that we have going here. So it's $4 a month. There's some cool bonus episodes on there. We might have some coming out over the summer, but the one thing I can guarantee is that we're going to thank you genuinely for your support. For example, thank you, Sharon, Karen, Tack, Josh, and Robin.
Yeah. And we will likely be back in September. So while you're heading over to Discord to keep in touch with us, maybe you throw in a few movie suggestions that you want to see for season 12. Yeah, we would love to get those.
Until then, I'm Liam Creswick.
I'm Scott C. Bourgeois.
I'm Greg Beaver. Keep watching this, guys.
For Aliens.